Today's episode of This Week in Startups is brought to you by MailChimp. Manage lists with 2,000 subscribers and send up to 12,000 emails per month for free with MailChimp. And by Walker Corporate Law, a boutique corporate law firm specializing in the representation of entrepreneurs. For more information, visit them at walkercorporatelaw.com. And by AWS Activate. It's easy to start and scale your business with Amazon Web Services. Check out free resources like one-on-one office hours with AWS Solutions Architects and much more. Learn more and sign up at aws.amazon.com/activate.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Calacanis, and this is This Week in Startups, the show where we talk about technology, startups, venture capital, and all that great stuff. With me today, a powerhouse roundtable, Rafe Needleman, the editorial director of Yahoo Tech, is with us. Also, Sarah Lacy, the dynamic founder and editor-in-chief of Pando, is with us as well. It's going to be an amazing episode.
That's what it's all about, man. They said, money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
Hey everybody, it's This Week in Startups. We're back after, I think, about a month of not doing a live This Week in Startups news roundtable. If you're just joining us and it's the first time, this is episode 422 of this humble little podcast, which we started 5 years ago. What do we do on This Week in Startups? We talk about startup companies, technology, entrepreneurship, venture capital, angel investing, and all that great stuff, innovating, basically. And we do 2 shows every week. On Tuesday, I interview somebody, and then on Friday, I typically have a couple of my friends in the technology business. Could be a venture capitalist or angel investor, could be a journalist, could be some combination of those things. And we talk about what's going on in the news. So if you're into technology, you're into startups, you're in the right place. We just finished the awesome launch festival, which was just outstanding. I'm so happy for all the startups who participated, and 9,000 people came. It's the largest startup conference in the world now, and we're going to try next year to hit, I don't know, I mean, what's next? I mean, I don't want it to become as big as South by Southwest, but I do want it to get bigger, so I'm thinking maybe 15,000 people, and maybe we'll move it down to San Jose's Convention Center or Mountain View or something. We need a bigger boat, is basically what's going on. If you don't follow me on Twitter, I'm at Jason, and the show is at TWI Startups. On the news program today, 2 of my very good friends and 2 really just, at the end of the day, great writers and thinkers in the technology space. And I put writers first because writing is clarity of thought. And if you can't write down what you think in a really succinct, tight way, you probably, let me just be honest, not that smart. So I judge people pretty harshly based on their ability to write. And these are 2 people who I read everything they write. Welcome back to the program, Rafe Needleman, the editorial director of Yahoo Tech. And it's the first time you're on the program with that title, I believe. Is that correct, Rafe?
It is, and it's great to be here. And I loved launch, by the way. It was great.
Oh, well, thanks for coming. You've been a grand jury member. You've been a judge. You've covered it as a journalist. I mean, what was your takeaway from this year? Was there some highlight for you, a company you particularly liked?
Oh, man, put me on the spot. I really loved all the hardware startups. I didn't expect to see as many as I did. They were good. I love what crowdfunding is doing to the creation of hardware. It's just more gadgets, which is great for what I do here, because that's what we cover.
Yeah, it was kind of mind-blowing. And back on the program, Sarah Lacy, the founder and editor-in-chief of Pando Daily. Now, am I supposed to call it Pando Daily or just Pando now that you got the domain name?
You can call it either. I call it Pando because for about a year I couldn't because someone else owned it legally, and so I enjoy just saying Pando. The blog is still Pando Daily, but we're discussing in-house whether that will change.
But you have Pando.com.
We do.
So just call it Pando. I call it launch, you call it Pando. You just one word. That's it. It's Pando.
I think that's where we're going.
Yeah,
I mean, Pando Daily sounds like a news organization, and I think, for a lot, everyone in tech knows this, but we're now covering more in politics and entertainment and sort of tech's intersection. And I think for the reporters calling people who don't know us, saying Pando Daily sounds like more of a news organization than just Pando. But we're migrating towards it.
Yeah, I mean,
letter domains are awesome.
Yeah, don't you just love it? What was that? That's a $100,000 purchase or a $50,000 purchase? 6 figures? Lower?
No, lower.
Well done.
I'm surprisingly good at this.
Very good. Look at you. You have a lot of sympathy for founders because you are one.
I do.
The cold is thawing over there in that seat at Pando. All right, listen, let's get right to the news here. I think I want to start with this Disney story. Disney reportedly, according to Recode, Kara Swisher's great blog as well, another female-led tech blog, or tech news source, I should say. We don't call them blogs anymore. Disney to buy Maker Studios, considering an acquisition of $500 million for the multi-channel network. That's a fancy word for somebody who represents a bunch of YouTube channels. Maker says it now generates over 5 billion views per month. But here's the rub. Almost all of them are on YouTube, obviously a service they don't control, and they have to give 45% of the revenue away. And they've raised $66 million. They acquired the failed video startup Blip.tv last summer, leading some to speculate that they might actually go head-to-head with YouTube at some point. Rafe, what are your thoughts on Disney possibly buying Maker Studios?
Well, it shows how media is shifting. It's just, we're in the middle of a massive shift in media, a change of control of who owns the media, where the content is coming from. And I think it's a smart move for Disney. It shows the change to set-top and routing around the cable networks. And I think it's smart for them. I'm glad to see them do it. And it's great for independent media producers as well.
Why is it great for independent media producers, do you think, Rafe?
Well, it's a new outlet. Instead of having, it shows that there is an exit for content plays. Now, not everybody is going to get a $500 million exit, but it shows that there's something to shoot for and will encourage creative people to put it out there, to try to build a brand through social media or whatever, and do great content. And it shows that you don't have to be a major studio in order to build a major following.
Sarah, when we see news like this break ahead of a deal, would I be cynical to think that this might be the investors leaking it, or it might be wishful thinking? What is your take on this?
I don't know. If it were someone other than, I mean, did Kafka break the original story? I think he did, right?
Yeah, probably Kafka, yeah.
He has excellent sources in the MCN space. I mean, he has been absolutely leading on all the machinima news. If it were someone other than Kafka, I would say, yeah, it is probably someone trying to manipulate the market. I think it's actually probably just really good intel. But I think this would also, I echo a lot of what Rafe said, but I think it's also a nice win for LA. It'd be, a big hit for Mark Suster. I think probably the biggest one that he's had if it happened. And let's face it, this has been the leading MCN, and it's a market people have been excited about. But at the same time, they're having battles with founders. They're having some issues. You look at what's been happening with machinima apparently just falling apart. You always have that thing of, should they try to go bigger if they've got, this massive kind of audience and this is still a market that's in flux, or should they sell? And it is a rare time where I always like to see companies go long, and it's a rare time where I think it would be great for them to lock in a win.
Yeah, I think clearly there's probably a little bit of fire here, obviously, if Peter Kafka's doing it, and we can confirm that is who wrote the story because he meets with these folks. But in related news, we had Machinima laying off 25% of their staff, and this all goes back to the fact that really when you build inside of somebody else's ecosystem, and when it comes to video, really there's currently only one ecosystem at scale, and that's YouTube. If you build inside of somebody's ecosystem, you're going to have a serious danger of your business being compromised at some point when that ecosystem decides they want your business. And we saw that happen with Facebook and Zynga, and we saw it happen with Machinima and Maker. I think this is something where they got to pull the trigger on this if they can get $200 million because... Yeah.
Look, Jason, I'm curious. We're talking about what this means for Machinima. For Maker and their investors and all that. But, and the content creators, what does it mean for Disney? Disney doesn't have a great track record buying technology companies. It hasn't implemented them very well. Is this just a purchase that they do and it kind of goes there to die? Do you think it's a good deal for Disney?
I bet you this is a deal for Disney where they want to learn a little bit about the secret sauce of how to break new stars. If you look at the stars that have broken out on YouTube, iJustine and PewDiePie and all this kind of stuff, it feels really a lot like the Disney Channel. And the Disney Channel is quite a franchise. So if they bought this for $500 million and they wrote down $450 million of it, but they learned how to make, one more new Disney star online or how to manipulate the YouTube ecosystem a little bit better, like let's say 10% better, it would probably be worth it for the learnings if they get like a couple of dozen great executives. But really, Disney is one of those interesting companies that they really don't seem to buy technology startups. They seem to just build really great stuff with third parties. That's, I think, how they make a lot of their apps and stuff based upon their original IP, which now includes Star Wars and Marvel, which is pretty amazing when you think about their library and what they're capable of. But they also did their own characters on the iPhone with Where's My Water, that alligator kid. So they're actually pretty deft at doing online. So this would be interesting. I mean, Disney, with their market cap and their cash flow, they should be buying tons of stuff. But I think they just have too much opportunity, having bought Marvel and Star Wars, that I don't think they have the time to even focus on anything but getting those new Star Wars movies out and printing money with the Avengers.
Yeah, I mean, look, focus is good. But it's interesting, Sheryl Sandberg is on their board, and we all know Facebook's buying a shitload of stuff.
Disney just laid off 700 people. I'm getting a note from producer Gina from their interactive division. I think that might have been a lot of people from LucasArts because they were making games. Like, I think what they want to do is be in the licensing business. So LucasArts always aspired to make their own games, which turned out to be a bit of a mistake. I think people agreed. All right, when we get back from the commercial break, we will talk about Google slashing their cloud costs. The IPO watch looks like Eventbrite and King Games from Candy Crush fame and Alibaba are going public. And we'll do our launch of the week when we get back from this very important commercial message. And this is a really easy partner message for me to read because it's for MailChimp. And we're done. No, so in all seriousness, what do we use for? You love it.
I was so delighted when I saw MailChimp on the script.
You're like, yeah, exactly. Jason gets to make a fool of himself. I love making. Let me tell you something. I love making a fool of myself for my partners because they make everything possible. They let me pay really good salaries to a really great team to keep all this sustainable. But anyway, let's get back to MailChimp. What do we use for the launch mailing list? What do I use for Jason Nation mailing list? What do I use for This Week in Startup mailing list? And everything I do in life, I use MailChimp. Why do I use it? Well, it just works. It's flawless. It's beautiful design. And here's one thing you need to know if you're making a mailing list. You can do it for free at MailChimp for up to 2,000 subscribers and 12,000 emails per month. I have to keep checking that. That's why I'm looking down at my notes because every couple of months they seem to increase the free offer. And right now it stands at 2,000 subscribers and 12,000 emails a month for free. Now you say to yourself, why would they give away all that free service? Well, they want you to build your business and get to scale and be profitable. And if they help you grow, you'll reward them by being a loyal customer like I have been for so long. They're constantly releasing new awesome updates. They have a MailChimp 9.0 out and drag and drop email designer that creates mobile-friendly emails. So this has been the bane of my existence, is trying to make mobile work on email and Mailbox and Gmail and Yahoo Mail. It's just a disaster to try to actually make HTML work. Guess what? MailChimp's the one figuring that out, and it makes my life really easy. And you can edit emails in real time, a la Google Docs. Just great features. There's no contract. There's no trial. And the free plan is always free. Thank you so much to my friends at MailChimp. All right, let's get back to the program. IPOs. My God, there's a lot of IPOs going on. Eventbrite has just raised $60 million from Tiger Global T. Rowe at $1 billion. Yes, $1 billion valuation. And that's on top of $60 million from the same investors less than a year ago. And people are speculating they are most likely to go public in the next year, probably in 2015. We also have Alibaba planning to raise a WhatsApp or 5 nests in their IPO in the next couple of months. But they're going to do it in the United States, which is a big, big deal. So $15 billion. And finally, King Games, who makes Candy Crush, which, by the way, Candy Crush counts for 78% of their revenue. Talk about, having a liability on your books. $5.7 billion valuation is what they're looking to have. Obviously, Zynga went public previously, and that was a bit of a boondoggle, although it seems to be they're working it out. Let me start with you on this one, Sarah. Walk me through each of these IPOs and what's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I'm going to start in reverse order because, like, I just do not understand why anyone would buy King.com in an IPO. I mean, how many times do we have to see OMG Pop, Zynga, over and over again? Like, these games that it doesn't take very much money and they're very lightweight to build and they're very addictive, you know, they're appropriately for the name of King's biggest game, they're candy. They're candy, and you fly through them and then you're bored with it. And everyone has acknowledged that, and everyone has said, well, the secret sauce is being able to do more and more and more of them. And like, it seems like Zynga was the best at that. They tried buying them, they tried franchises, they tried everything they could do. And, you know, it just doesn't work. It is just not a way to build a multi-billion-dollar company. And every time there's news about Candy Crush, I go around our newsroom, I ping really smart investors I know, and I say, can anyone articulate the bull case for King.com to me? And no one can. Like, I feel like this is like, watching this IPO is a little bit like people who go back to play these addictive games over and over again and can't explain why. Like, at some point, investors will just realize these are not good stocks and no one has cracked this code. Like,
why?
I
guess the question is, why can't somebody put together a string of hits in the way that we're just talking about Disney or Warner Brothers or, you know, whatever, Sony Pictures, Columbia Pictures? They seem to be able to build a studio that can have multiple hits. I think Electronic Arts had multiple hits. Why haven't we seen that, Sarah?
Well, I think if you think about Disney was born in a totally different era. And Disney really created a category and did something completely new at a time when there were real barriers to entry. And Disney has, like, the different legs to its business, you know, and it's continue to build them out over time. It had amusement parks, and Disney will always have that back catalog, which is super, super valuable. So even when Pixar was like eating Disney's lunch and Disney was really, really struggling before the two, started working more closely together, and certainly before they bought them, Disney still had that back catalog and amusement parks, which were super valuable. Inherently, when you're talking about things like Angry Birds or Zynga, the back catalog is meaningless.
It's not there yet.
Become uninteresting.
Yeah, Rafe.
But no one has stayed playing these. I mean, I couldn't get enough of dots for 3 days, and you couldn't pay me to play dots right now.
Rafe, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, obviously you're covering pretty heavily the consumer space. Would you buy King stock, and why haven't these companies been able to put together a string of hits?
I don't know what the secret sauce is to making a game company successful, but when you upset the apple cart, bad things happen. You look what happened to Draw Something as soon as Zynga bought them, right? Big game. It was definitely worth it at the time because they were a rocket ship. And then right after that, they sold out at exactly the wrong time. The whole value proposition collapsed. People stopped using it. Only Rovio, in recent memory, as a smaller independent company on mobile games, has seemed to been able to really exploit their catalog of characters and ideas. Sarah's right. The back catalog in movies makes a big difference. It doesn't make that big difference in games unless you've got a franchise that you can exploit. And in games, that franchise is really hard to exploit. Now, it works big on the multiplayer, the giant $50 million, $100 million Xbox and PlayStation games where you've got these franchises like Half-Life, et cetera, that keep going, or Call of Duty. But on mobile games, which is what these guys are doing, nobody knows what the secret is to keep something going, and you don't know when it's going to collapse. And when it collapses, you're left holding a stock that goes from looks great to almost worthless.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating that nobody's been able to build a sustainable, large, casual gaming company, because it would seem that you get to get more swings at the bat, and maybe you could buy some of these games and build a franchise out of them. But it is, I guess they're kind of ephemeral, and none of them have. I mean, Angry Birds did become a franchise, and I think that still has some value.
Angry Birds has done the best job because they also went into it saying, we want to have the Disney-like thing. We want to control the rights. They didn't license out a lot of stuff. They wanted to go into movies. They went into toys. They went into merchandise. I mean, they did a better job than the other ones. But, these would terrify me if I was an investor. I mean, Supercell, fastest growing company Excel has ever seen. And that includes Groupon and Facebook. Like, I don't know. I said the same thing when Groupon was the fastest growing company anyone had ever seen. Like, at some point, there are laws of gravities to building real defensible businesses.
All right, now Eventbrite.
That big, that quickly, it's not sustainable.
Okay, let's do Eventbrite. We've both got a front row seat to watching this company grow. What are your thoughts, Sarah, on Eventbrite?
So I like the entrepreneurs a lot, and I use Eventbrite, but like, to me, Eventbrite, they're going to get mad at me for saying this, but Eventbrite is a little bit like Grubhub. It's just kind of an uninspiring IPO. You know, it's not a company I get super excited about, even though we use it regularly and it solves a problem. But like, does it really solve a problem in a way that excites me as a consumer? Like, it doesn't. Grubhub doesn't either. I think Eventbrite's doing well, but it's missed the boat a little bit on where it could be, which is actually a little similar to Yelp as well. I mean, I think Eventbrite could be helping me discover events more than it does. And I know it's tried, but it doesn't work. I mean, it's kind of one of those single, $1 to $5 billion exits that's, if I were at the company or an investor, I'd be thrilled and I'm happy for them because, it's a couple who've done this while raising small children. But like, it just doesn't excite me the way Grubhub didn't excite me.
Yeah. Rafe, what are your thoughts, Eventbrite?
Well, I think what's interesting about Eventbrite is they're beginning to lock into the event building and planning space, which is a nice place to be in. If you're doing an event and you don't sell tickets on Eventbrite, it's not just that you're missing out on how easy it is to sell and manage tickets, but the discovery thing. They've got to lock into the discovery of events. And if they do, they start to lock into the travel and entertainment industry that goes around it. And there's a lot of money there. So if they can successfully do that, and I saw them begin to do it at South by, where if you wanted to know what was going on at South by, you just searched Eventbrite for South by South SXSW, and you knew what was going on in the open events. That was the source. If they can do that, if they can become the discovery channel for events, and like I said, they loop in what's going on with the other stuff in travel and entertainment, and there is value there. It's not sexy, but there's value.
I have to say, though, they are, I mean, it's you haven't seen it, but if you look at this video here, they just added this thing, map tickets to your seats, and you can actually make reserved seating in your auditorium, which for me, like, I'm going to do this. Like, we've used Ticket Leap, which is a really good service as well. I think it's a little bit more affordable for us for the event. But boy, is this interesting. Start selling specific seats in your auditorium. And the lightweight nature of this product, I think, is very disruptive. And they still haven't, I don't think that they've grown on a global scale like they could. So I agree with Sarah's assessment that, hey, it might be a little boring, but it's sort of like boring in the way that Facebook was boring at the beginning, where it seemed like all they cared about was growth. But then they started layering in other features, and it got sort of exciting. Finally, let's talk about Alibaba. This is going to be huge. Sarah, what are your thoughts on the $15 billion raise for Alibaba?
Yeah, I mean, everyone has known this is a monster. I mean, most of Yahoo's stock price in its most troubled time was the value of Alibaba. And the reason that Marissa's been given so much headway with investors to, buy Tumblr and Katie Couric and all these other things is because she finally unlocked some of that value. And everyone knew this IPO was coming up. I mean, I know that they've had some recent struggles with management, with Jack Ma stepping back. And I haven't been to China in a couple years, so I don't know as much about the company as I used to. It'll be interesting to see what's a somewhat mature Chinese company going public now. Do they still have the dynamism with, bigger, more sexy, newer Chinese companies? Do they have the smartest people who can really continue to make this really big? Or does it look more like Yahoo and eBay look now, only going public now? I mean, that's the big question I would have. But look, the thing I love about China that I think people are so fixated on thinking the Chinese are all copycats. They don't give the entrepreneurs their credit for the only multi-billion-dollar consumer internet companies that have been built anywhere else in the world are all in China. And Alibaba is one of the ones that really started it all.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Alibaba is a large company in the sense of a, American large internet company, perhaps one of the only ones. Rafe, you work at Yahoo, which owns a major stake in this. Is this something people talk about around the office? Does it impact you guys, or
I love Alibaba. I think, considering that I work here, that's all I can say. I love Alibaba. We're very happy with Alibaba.
Well, I mean, it must be great, and it's a great shot in the arm because it must make every employee at Yahoo feel at least like, hey, wow, look at this. We have this incredible asset. It must give a sense of security that you have this huge war chest.
I don't know what to say. I wish I could say more about it.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Fair enough. All right. When we get,
I will say,
yeah.
I did a show for Yahoo Finance several years ago, and so I had my brief stint doing something for there. And it is if you have worked in traditional journalism, it is a plush, cushy, great job. I mean, traditional journalists don't have the kind of perks that developers usually get. And it's like, I mean, the free coffee, the food, I was in shock the whole time I was at Yahoo. So
yeah, but back then the morale was on the
Sarah,
floor.
I'll tell you this.
Thing.
I've never worked this many hours in my entire life. So, free coffee, that's just the beginning of what I need to keep this thing going.
Yeah, now they got the free food there, the free iPhones. Morale is going up. Morale is going up.
You were working harder than I worked there.
All right, and then speaking of hardworking, my good friend Scott Ed Walker from the Walker Corporate Law Group, good segue, Jason, is specializes in providing.
You are so cheesy.
I know, it's great. I revel in it. So the Walker Corporate Law Group is a boutique law firm that specializes in the representation of entrepreneurs and startups. I've known Scott Walker for a long time. He's been a partner on this program for years. He comes to all the events, and his heart's in the right place. He supports startups with fixed fee billing. So that means if you are raising money or doing employment contracts or doing M&A, he might just say to you, hey, listen, let's just do it for this number. So you don't have to have that sticker shock every time, the bill comes from your attorney. He's a real mensch. He works very hard, and they've really built this boutique law firm with people with decades of experience from the other big law firms. So you're not getting any junior associates working on your deal. Go ahead and email Scott at Walker Corporate Law, scott@walkercorporatelaw.com. Or call them, 415-979-9998. 415-979-9998. Scott's a great guy. He really pushes his team to work extremely hard and be extremely efficient for their startups. And, when I have startups, I refer, at the events or at launch festival, et cetera, I always refer them to him because I know he's going to take care of them. And then I always hear back, oh, yeah, we had this big technical issue with the IP. I told you that story once before on the show. I talked to Scott for like an hour and a half about it. I was like, wow, what did he charge you by? Oh, he didn't charge us. He just wanted to help us. And, I think we're going to use him as our attorney. I get stories like that all the time about Scott. He's a really great guy. Go ahead and follow him at Scott Ed Walker on Twitter. And go ahead and call him, 415-979-9998. All right, listen, enough with the IPOs. Let's go to our Bing startup launch of the week. Or I should say launch of the week. Thank you to my friends at Bing for doing the launch startup of the week. Okay, here we go. First up, Glass app to recognize patients in Boston hospital. Hey guys, you should be pulling this stuff up while I'm talking on the screen since we were supposed to have a video jockey. Can you guys do that? Boston Hospital builds app for Glass. QR codes let doctors call up info on patients, so they walk in and they just look at that QR code, and then all the information goes right into their Glass. 4 emergency physicians have been beta testing the devices since December. I shouldn't say the devices, probably the software on the devices. And a doctor described the system in a blog post, says his team made several modifications, including an external battery pack, that's really necessary, a status bar to show the wireless strength, tilt to control scrolling, and it does not send information to Google. Patient data stays behind a firewall. It's all HIPAA compliant. Next up, Imitone software to translate humming into songs. Let's see that. Okay, there you go. That's Imitone, and that's a Kickstarter project. The software recognizes the frequency and length of humming or singing, and it operates alongside GarageBand, another software. Pick an instrument, and your singing translates into MIDI sound. Fast, simple music creation for people who lack training instruments or sophisticated microphone and mixers, also for people who lack talent. Crowdfunding site Omaze raises money through crazy contests like riding in Arnold's tank. Okay, let's see that clip. I don't know what this is.
Did you ever feel like this? And you actually wanted to feel like this? They come to LA and crush things in my tank. Let's crush a taxi cab. Let's crush a piano. Here's a weight bench with 501 pounds. I'm gonna crush my own record. I'm 66 years old and I saved every one of my birthday cakes. Why? Because I wanted to crush them. Bubble rub is the most fun thing to step on, right? But think about stepping on it with a tank. I'm going to crush a copy of $1 Million Baby because it makes me cry. I don't cry. No, you didn't just pass out.
I don't even understand. Producer Gina, what exactly is this crowdfunding Omaze doing? They're going to raise money for after-school programs, and you ride in it. Oh, it's a contest. I got it. Like it's a raffle. I get it. Okay. All right. So those are but this is, you can do all different types of raffles with Omaze. I get it. So it's like Kickstarter. You get big experiences. What was that site? There's a site, Gina, go look it up. There's a site where all the celebrities auction stuff off. Charity Buzz, Celebrity Buzz. Maybe it's Charity Buzz. Pull that up for the video jockey. Pull up Charity Buzz. That's another one. Okay, let me start with you, Rafe. You heard about 3 startups. Which was your favorite launch of the week? Was it the Glass app for patients, for doctors rather? Was it Imitone, so you could imitate actually having talent in playing an instrument and just have the software do it for you? Or was it a crowdfunding site that does raffles, including zany stuff like a very old Arnold crushing stuff with his tank? Which one was the most important launch of the week? As
a business, the one that actually touches money is probably the best, which would be one of the second two, the raffle one, or Humming if they can sell songs through it. However, neither of those companies excite me in any way at all. The Glass app seems to be the most useful product out there, the one that might actually help doctors do better work and save lives. And it's a real application for Google Glass and head-mounted displays in a socially acceptable context. This is where this technology lives, in industry, in maintenance and repair, whether it's of airplanes or the human body. I love that app, and I think it could, if it makes doctors better, that's the one that I want to see actually take off.
Now, you mentioned Google Glass. Very good, by the way. You gave why you liked and why you didn't like. I like that. But Google Glass, you're saying it kind of sucks for consumers, but it's kind of brilliant for enterprise. Is that sort of your point?
Yeah. I mean, come on. South by had panels on how not to be a glass hole when you're wearing these things. Every time I see somebody wearing Google Glass who's trying to talk to me, I want to punch them in the nose. It's a visceral reaction. I cannot help myself, and I love technology. That actually not a socially acceptable product.
It's not a socially acceptable product to the point at which video has been released of a woman. She didn't get beat up or accosted, but I think she might have gotten chased out of a bar or something. Somebody took them off her head, which, to be honest, every person I know, when somebody walks up to them with those things on, does want to rip them off people's faces if it's in a social setting.
This is why I don't want a doctor walking in to talk to me wearing one. I mean, the most annoying thing ever when you're like, think of the state you're in when you're frequently going to see a doctor.
You're vulnerable.
The most annoying thing is they have a chart and they come in and they're like, hi, Sarah.
If I'm
in line,
like,
I think the Google Glass would be the only thing more annoying than that.
Rafe, you disagree?
If I'm lying nearly dead in an emergency room with parts of my body lying next to me, and the doctor is looking at my chart and the data and what's that thing hanging out of Rafe, that's what I want.
Okay, Sarah, rebuttal there.
I'm unclear how Google Glass makes that any better.
Well, if they were...
By the way, I think there's a massive adoption problem with here. I think doctors aren't going to do it. I think there's going to be 2 nerdy doctors who do it. The rest are going to be used to their charts, and they're not going to want to learn how to use it. And, it just doesn't seem like... I don't get how it makes patient care better.
I could see when you're doing surgery, if you were looking at a heart and it was telling you, overlaid on the heart what the blood pressure was or whatever the metric was. I could see that being super valuable. But I agree, it's so goddamn invasive. Can you imagine during your child's birth, the doctor walks in with those things on? He's like, hey, here we go. Or she, let's go ahead, toss it out. It's like, really? I mean, they're so obnoxious. What did you think, Sarah, when you saw that? Did you see the video of the woman coming up saying, you're ruining San Francisco, you're ruining our city, to the woman who walked into the bar with them?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I mean, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. I mean, I think like the simmering hatred and the degree to which tech is being vilified for ruining San Francisco is frustrating. But I think what's annoying about it is, look, I live in the Mission and I walk around and like I'm wearing grubby sweatpants with my kids on the weekend, and I see other people walking around and high-fiving and talking about their funding rounds and wearing Google Glass, and I don't like those people either. The problem is the people who hate startup people and tech people in San Francisco only see the douchey ones because those are the only ones they know are those people. So
they can only identify them.
Horrible. Yeah, those are plenty of not horrible people who are just normal people who run companies or work at companies, and those guys kind of give us a bad name.
Okay, I agree with that. I agree with that. Okay, so let's go through these three. And by the way, I don't mean to be like I told you so, but I told you that people were going to get punched in the face over this. And do not wear your glasses in a social setting. In fact, I had to tell a Google executive who got on the dance floor with his goddamn Google Glass to take them off because he was killing the vibe. I'm like, dude, you're like, I literally told this to a Google executive. I said, you're like the wedding videographer. You ever notice when the videographer goes on the dance floor, he's like, hey, yeah. Everybody's like, oh, and everybody leaves? That's you. You are destroying the vibe on the dance floor. All right, Sarah.
It's horrible. That said, we should not say that it's okay for someone to physically assault a woman, whether she's wearing glass or not.
Shouldn't be able to physically assault anybody. However, yeah. I did tell you somebody's going to get beat up over this, and that's exactly what's starting to happen. Do not wear them in a social setting. For the love of God, when I say something, I don't understand why people don't listen when I tell them, don't do this. I have this bizarre, you have this as well, Sarah, to a certain extent. Like when you write something and you know you're right and then people don't listen to you, it's incredibly frustrating. All right. Because you assume everybody in the world just reads what you write. Okay, Sarah. You saw three companies. You saw the doctor wearing Google Glass, the two of them. You saw Imitone allowing people with no talent to make music. I mean, no different than the music industry. And then you saw crowdfunding site Omaze. Yeah, no different than, Lindsay Lohan or,
auto-tune.
Yeah, or it's auto-tune for everybody who can't play instruments. Congratulations. Crowdfunding site Omaze will Omaze you with Arnold's, but actually, let's give him a fair shake here. It's not about Arnold. That was just an example. It's for raising money for charity through unique experiences. Go ahead, Sarah. Which one is your launch of the week?
So I'm going to say Imitone because, first of all, I sing to my kids every night, and I have no talent, so I am the primary user of this. It doesn't super excite me. I think it's interesting. I don't think it's going to be a huge business, but I think the doctor thing is ridiculous. I think it's a gimmick no one will adopt. I think Omaze, it's an interesting idea, and it's great that they got Arnold to do one, but, I think when you try to do any business that's predicated on, we're going to beat Kickstarter and Indiegogo, which have the audience and have that network effect already, by saying celebrities are going to be your thing. That's really hard to sustain. I think it kind of reminds me of those early social networks for old people or social networks for knitters or whatever, where it's like, yeah, but you can just kind of use Facebook for that. I kind of think you can use existing stuff for this.
All right, so your winner is very clearly Imitone. All right, there you go. And I like the way you did. Okay, so I think this Glass app, I'll do mine really quick. The Glass app as presented is meaningless. I don't want the doctor to be scanning QR codes and slowing down just to get information on me. Pick up the damn chart or look at your iPad. An iPad would probably be better because then, it would have more information on it, whatever. But I do think that if they keep going and it's like a surgery one, I would have voted for it if it was actually giving live data. So I see the potential, but I don't see the potential in the current application, so I'm not going to pick the Glass app. On the Imitone, I think that could inspire people to pick up an instrument eventually. So I really like that aspect of it. But I hate music startups because they never seem to work and they never seem to get anywhere. They just it's all interesting stuff, but I don't think that many people want to play music. But maybe this is the one that breaks through. So I kind of like it, but I think it's a long shot that it's going to work. I think it'll be niche. But the crowdfunding site Omaze and the crazy contest things, I do think that there is something there with crowdfunding and people trying to raise money and maybe having a platform for that. So people always love to put their raffle in to win the car, and everybody buys a car for $1. So I think that could be in the boring way, I'm using air quotes, in the boring way that Eventbrite is a multi-billion-dollar business. I think Omaze could be a business worth hundreds of millions of dollars, even in a very boring way to go. So I'm going to pick Omaze, and there you have it, everybody. Our first split decision on the Bing launch of the week. Thank you to my friends at Bing. All right, last story, or second to last story. Let's keep going here. Whistleblowers and violence and the usual parties at South by Southwest. Of course, everybody knows I hate panels. Nothing occurs on them. And South by Southwest panels are amongst the worst because they're just voted on randomly by a bunch of people who tweet, please vote for my panel. They're 9 out of 10 panels at South by Southwest. Nothing occurs but people talking about themselves and trying to promote nonsense. It's a big boondoggle. I'm not going back to South by Southwest ever, I think, because it was just such a terrible experience last year to have people require 5 night stay, $600 a night at the Marriott. Like, I can afford it, and I'm just pissed off about it. And also the content is like, anyway. But they did have, I think, 3 pretty good keynotes that I saw, and I actually watched portions of each, which was Lady Gaga today, Edward Snowden, and Julian Assange, all very interesting. So they're doing pretty well in the keynotes, and interestingly, 2 out of those 3 were phoned in, which has got me thinking maybe a phoned-in, interview is worth it at an event if it's somebody who's really great. But of course, the saddest thing is that a driver who was avoiding a DWI checkpoint plowed into a crowd and killed 2 people and injured 24, and that is just absolutely horrible. David Carr wrote a piece trying to. Listen, I like David. I like David Carr. I'm a fan of the New York Times, but he sort of tried to say that there was some connection with the event getting too big and this being a reality check for the event, which I think is a kind of a hard bridge to jump. Rafe, what are your thoughts on the good, the bad, and the ugly of South by Southwest this year?
Well, the tragedy of a man jumping a checkpoint and plowing into people outside a club stands by itself, and that was just a horrible thing. I don't think it's symptomatic of South by or any other event. It was terrible. I don't know what else there is to say about that. As far as South by overall, I was there for 4 days. I didn't go to see a single panel. I was busy running Yahoo's own events, which were nearby at an off-site venue that we did, and we had some great interviews. I interviewed Alexis Ohanian of Reddit, Tim Berners-Lee, David Pogue did Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Biz Stone. It was a really good event for Yahoo. But the buzz at Yahoo for the people who are there, who go to have fun, to learn, to meet other people, to go party, it's a great event. Yes, it's expensive. Yes, it's too expensive. But it's fun and educational, and you meet cool people. If you can afford it, I love going.
All right, there you go. And what do you think, Rafe, about the connection David Carr? So you sort of said it's like sort of stands on its own, but I don't know if you read his column where he sort of tried to connect it. There's no connection.
Not that I know of. I haven't read the column, but
yeah. Sarah, what are your thoughts? I mean, is South by Southwest getting so huge and spilling out into the streets? Is there some sort of connection to be made with this horrible tragedy? Because I thought that was kind of bizarre and out there.
Look, there's no connection. Yeah, there's no connection. I mean, look, but I'm surprised, actually, this is the first highly violent thing that we've seen at South by Southwest. It is a bunch of drunk people. That is why they go there, to get drunk. It's frequently a lot of drunk, angry people. I mean, I think this is incredibly sad, and I think there's no connection with this and it getting too big or whatever. But I think I'm frankly glad that we have not seen this earlier, because I think South by Southwest is a tinderbox for something stupid and bad to happen. It's just, I don't know. Look, I hate the conference. I think it has nothing to do with this. This incident has nothing to do with why South by Southwest is awful. And frankly, I'm thrilled to hear Rafe say that he loves it. You're the first person I've heard in 3 years actually say they love it, which I think is great, because I think it's the only thing more annoying than everyone saying it's over is that people still go every year. I mean, I think what's good about South by Southwest is it's a good conference for people under the director level or associates of venture firms, or people who are more of the mid to low level at startups or want to become entrepreneurs and don't have a network. It's a good place if you're early in your career or mid-level in your career to go make sources and go make contacts. I mean, I sent 2 of our entry-level reporters, and we would do that every year. But I would never go. I think it's just awful.
Yeah. Go ahead,
one
Rafe.
could also say that if you want to stay in touch with what's really going on with the up-and-coming people who are building new technology, go to South by and talk to them. Furthermore, I want to add this last thing on the tragedy. It's not the South by is getting too big to handle. It's 6th Street in Austin. They block that street off all the time. There's always a party going on there, and it's in the middle of the street with streets blocked off with barricades that are very flimsy. That's the problem.
Yeah, I have to agree with Sarah that I'm surprised that we haven't had more, bad news when you have whatever it is, tens of thousands of people getting drunk to the extent, the partying at that event, when I first went, which was literally over 10 years ago, before the first .com crash, it was I think the Hilton wasn't even built back then. Everybody stayed at the Driscoll, but it was like 3 concurrent panels and under 1,000 people. And it was just people who built stuff sharing what they built. And there really wasn't like this party culture there. It was like dinner and a couple drinks, but it has become like known for binge drinking and drug use and insanity to a level that makes it kind of not in sync with business, right? And so if you have all these business people going to spring break, let's pick another event, to do shots and get belligerently, inebriated, that is, that's going to create a lot of unprofessionalism and tension. And I just hate it because I go there and then I walk down the street at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. coming back from an event. Yeah. And it's just literally people are puking in the street or laying down in the street. It's embarrassing for these people. It's just embarrassing.
Yeah. And look, I would say, I've seen more up and coming cool stuff at a conference like Jason's than I ever have heard of coming out of South by Southwest. I've only been gone 1 year, but we send reporters every year and they write some interesting stuff. And I agree with you, Jason, the keynotes were really good and interesting. And I think they had some great gets there. And the fact that they took on a substantial thing like the NSA and privacy and all that versus just social media, I think good for them on the programming level. But I don't hear of any great companies there. I don't think there are. I think up and comers are working their asses off building shit. I don't think they're paying $600 a night to be in South by Southwest. It's like the whole myth that business gets done there, I just think is bullshit. Look, everyone says they hate CES too. Everyone says CES is too big. But Dick Costolo goes to CES for 4 days because he makes major ad deals. There's huge business done there. I just don't think there ever is at South by Southwest.
There isn't.
I think it's a myth.
Yeah, it is a myth, and CES is very much like a deal. I go to CES for 48 hours, every couple of years, every other year, and I go to one specific dinner, which is the Rob Goldberg and his brother Dave Goldberg from SurveyMonkey have this elite, 100-person dinner of all the business associates they've collected in 20 years each. It's 40 years of business networking. And I go to that and it's like, wow, Michael Eisner's there and this person's there. And it's just incredibly efficient to sit and across from Michael Eisner and talk about Disney and what he's doing or whatever. But
you guys are elitists.
I'm not an elitist. We're a GSD.
Okay, name
Get
the
shit done.
Cool thing that you only found at South by Southwest.
Yeah, I don't think anything starts there. Anyway, let's move on here. We got a good final story here, which would be nice and juicy. The Guardian says there is a lack of diversity. We're not taking on any hot button issues here. Lack of diversity in journalism, startups, Ezra Klein's departure to Vox Media, Nate Silver's move to ESPN, Pierre Omidyar, and Glenn Grunwald. But it ignored Pando and The Information, although I think it did include Recode.
But it dismissed it by saying Kara's just a co-founder and she's a male co-founder, so it doesn't count.
Wait, she's a male co-founder because she has a male co-founder, or she's a male co-founder?
She doesn't count.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying she's a male co-founder because she's a lesbian. It sort of doesn't count as fully female because she's not exactly, no. Okay, so just we got to clarify that. But they did kind of dismiss her. And, listen, you're one of the ones sort of being dismissed here, Sarah, so let's start with you. Is there do you feel a diversity problem at the top of tech publications or new publications?
I think there's a diversity problem in any industry, in any country, in politics. Name for me anything where the top jobs aren't male-dominated. Yes, okay, this isn't news.
Healthcare.
There's nothing different about it, and I think we're at a more exciting time now Well, I mean, who runs most of the hospitals in America? I would guess it's not women, you know, and the top.
That's actually probably
true.
Probably
True. Is.
Yeah. That's probably
I mean, look, fashion design, chefs, things that you even think of as being women-centric. You know, the top jobs are all dominated by men. This is reality, and, like, let's stop being shocked by it. That said, I think what everyone piled in on Twitter about this was that her whole point was, well, these are the ones who get all the attention. And she's writing a story complaining about it and then not mentioning, you know, 3 of the most newsworthy ones of, you know, the last year or so. I mean, if you look at big tech publications, a lot of them are run by women at this point. And I think that is noteworthy. And it's, you know, I mean, Heather ran TechCrunch too. It's not even necessarily new. I think it's, I think you have to be, it was not a thought through article. And she admitted as much on Twitter. She said she, you know, wrote it in the back of a car on her knee on her laptop. I think it was a half-baked thought, but I think people expect better from Emily Bell. So I think people kind of went shit. But you could tell in the Twitter defense, it didn't totally make sense because she was saying, oh, well, Pando's a trade publication, you only cover tech. And I'm like, okay, well, we don't think that's true, but even if you look at it that way, isn't Politico, who she also listed, don't they only cover politics? So, like, she seemed to have a lot of different rules for these things, and the more it was pulled apart, it was just kind of like, well, it's just a problem. And it's like, yes, it's a problem in every industry. Yeah,
so maybe fired off a headline, got a ton of traffic, but maybe didn't think through the argument perfectly. Rafe, what are your thoughts? Diversity, you've been a journalist now for, I think, 20, 30 years in tech. What do you think? Is diversity changed a bunch? You're seeing a lot more female writers, or just in general?
Without running the numbers, I don't think that diversity has changed much in the rank and file of writers. There are some really good up-and-coming writers who are female or who are not white guys, but not a substantially greater number of them than there were when I started out. So it would be nice if there were more. I'd like to be able to hire. When I'm hiring somebody, I'd like there to be a more even mix of people to pick from. I will point out that here at Yahoo, I work for Megan Lieberman, who's the editor-in-chief of Yahoo News. She works for Kathy Savitt. Kathy Savitt works for Marissa Meyer. This is the media world that we're living in right now. That's anecdotal, not statistical.
So your boss's bosses and your boss are all female.
3 levels up.
3 levels up of female. Okay, so, I mean...
I'm blocked. What can I say? I just have to live with it.
Well, I mean, I guess the issue is on the hiring front. Sarah, do you take extra care to try to hire and have a more diverse group? Because I know Kara Swisher seems to. She's 50% female over at Recode. Do you think female founders of publications put a little extra care into hiring more females? Or attract more females? Talent?
So I don't necessarily put extra care. I mean, I think talent is talent into hiring, but I do put extra care into mentoring. So if I have a young female who's starting with Pando, I spend a lot of time because I do think there are things you have to navigate as a woman covering this industry that is very different. And so once people are here, I spend extra time. I mean, we look at everybody and frankly, I wish we had more racial diversity at Pando. And we've made a lot of offers to people who are Asian or Indian and, you know, they just haven't accepted the job. It's kind of just how it's worked. But I think the biggest problem for us is we're all white.
What's the issues that you dealt with as a female coming up in the technology journalism space?
Well, it's more about, it's not like major people, it's not CEOs, it's not VCs, it's not, you know, the people that you really need to do your job, but it's like if you get a scoop and someone else doesn't, people will be like, well, they just gave that to you because you're a girl, or they gave that to you because you were flirtatious or whatever. It's just all the haters, and I think the kind of hate you get is really different. And I think also if you're a single, so I moved to San Francisco with my husband in my early 20s, so I didn't have to go through this, but I think it is very hard if you're a single girl living in San Francisco to know how do you date when everyone is kind of in the tech scene and what's appropriate and what isn't. And I know like that's been a big issue for every blog and every publication. And how do you disclose that? And do you disclose if someone goes on a date with someone who happens to work at Google? Like that's a hard thing to navigate.
Well, I mean, people do disclose who they're married to. If they're in the tech, because you have Jessica Lesson with that issue, Kara Swisher with that issue. I don't think you have that issue. But, you know, those 2 individuals are, their partners are significant executives at other companies, Google and Facebook. But are you saying that there's really an issue of who you're dating, because you might be dating a founder or venture capitalist as a journalist, and do you disclose that or not? What's the best practice there if you're just dating? If you date over 6 months, do you have to
at what point
put it on your bio?
Yeah, I mean, where is the line on these things? And, you know, also, do you just then not write about the company? I mean, when I was coming up, like, that's how we handle things in traditional journalism. You just wouldn't write about that company and you'd recuse yourself from it. But, like, a lot of people don't like to do that now for whatever reason. It's out of fashion. I mean, I think it's hard. And I think it's hard, too, when you're a young woman, particularly working at a powerful publication that can affect the future of a startup, you know, knowing, you know, making sure you're not being used, making sure that people have the right intentions, making sure that you're not, you know, someone's not going to go crazy and then like leak everything about your relationship to ValueAg and it's just some wacko you went on a first date with. I mean, it's just I think it's a harder world.
And is this a unique to women?
Really I was always grateful I didn't have it. I think it's harder for women.
Why?
I think it's definitely harder for women because, again, everyone turns it because it's what your haters will say about you. You know, your haters will be like, you know, oh, Jason is such an asshole. You know, my haters will be like, I want to gang rape her in an alley. It's just a very, very different thing, the way hate gets telegraphed.
There's a violence expressed towards women that is not expressed towards men.
Yeah, and I think people
I agree with that because I've had women work for me who had that happen.
Count women out than men. I think more people will give, you know, an average reader. I'm not talking again about hirers or VCs or anything like that, but I think people are more likely to assume a woman is stupid and doesn't know what she's talking about. I think it's harder to navigate. So and it's harder even than when I was coming up, and I also didn't have this problem because I was with my husband, so I was in my early 20s, but it's a really, really hard world, and anything I can do to try to be oversensitive to any of those issues.
Do you have a rule at Pando about dating? Forget gender of dating, because there's a lot more female founders now, so it's quite possible you could have a young, you know, up-and-coming male reporter dating the female founder of a company. That's going to start happening more and more. So is there a specific rule at Pando or any other publication you know of where if you're dating somebody, you have to disclose it? And if so, how do you implement that?
We just say you can't write about that company. I mean, that's how we've done it so far.
Yeah. Interesting topic that probably a lot of people are not willing to discuss. Hey, thanks so much for being on the program. Rafe, everybody can follow at Rafe. Yes, he's got a 4-letter Twitter handle, RAFE. I command all my followers to follow Rafe. He is brilliant and doing great stuff. And you can find all that great tech news at yahoo.com/tech, or how would they find it?
That's it.
All right, I guessed it.
Yahoo.com/tech. It's the site. If anybody that you know has questions about technology, like your mom or somebody, and they find the other sites a little bit too inside baseball or too gadgety, send them to Yahoo Tech.
I need to get booked there to do a promo for inside.com. You know anybody who could book a founder of a company looking to reach the masses for their app? I need to get booked.
We'll talk.
Maybe I can get booked. All right, listen. And any other plugs? Any upcoming coverage or things we should know? Special projects over at Yahoo Tech?
Just no, we've got David Pogue's reviews here. So if you want to see what he's up to and writing about, that's great. We've got a great writer, Alyssa Beresnack, who does these amazing on-the-spot how-tos of new apps when they come out, like Secret and Whisper.
That's valuable.
How to use it.
Yeah,
it is. She's great. I love her work.
All right, see, to my chat jockey there, that's the perfect opportunity for you when Rafe says she writes this stuff to go to yahoo.tech, pull it up, and boom, just throw it on the screen so I can see it, right? Because it's a plug. Come on, chat jockey.
Right.
Who's doing the chat jockeying? I have this theory on the show. We'll have a chat jockey. When I'm talking about something or the guest talks about something, there it is. There's Yahoo Tech. Perfect. Now, the advanced thing to do now would be who is the journalist who does the Whisper stuff?
Alyssa Beresnack.
Okay, so now you find Alyssa there, and then you probably could just look at the headlines there and then just, try to find it, click it, show. She did a Whisper one, so maybe there's a Whisper one he mentioned, and pull it up. This way, and the show's more dynamic, okay? Let's get better at this.
We can all benefit from this training session. Thank you, Jason.
You know what? I just have to stop for a second. Okay, so there it is. Look, see here, how to navigate confounding innovation to chat feature. Boom. I like it.
There you go.
All right. Now, on to you, Sarah Lacy. Everybody go check out pando.com and follow Sarah Cuda, Sarah, C-U-D-A, Sarah Cuda, on Twitter. She's pretty...
What is the adjective you're going to use? Let's just say she's pretty.
Insert non-sexist. She's very engaging on Twitter. I wasn't going to say spunky because I was like, this Punky Brewster. But I was going to say you're kind of, you mix it up on Twitter. What's the word for mix it? Feisty? I think feisty, though, if you say a woman is feisty, that kind of has a little bit of baggage, doesn't it? Is that sexist?
I'm fine with feisty.
She's a little. I'm a little feisty.
I get called such worse things. I'm fine with feisty.
Everybody's, listen, I think rightfully so. Everybody's trying to be politically correct. Listen, I've changed a lot of, people know this on this show. I took the word retarded out of my vocabulary because people were hurt by it and they emailed me.
I've been working on that one.
Well, listen, I'm from Brooklyn. We basically use that word 100 times a day minimum.
Yeah.
So I took out the R word. I took the R word pledge because I had a very close friend of mine say, my brother is special needs, and you say that, and it hurts me. And you say it constantly when I go to dinner with you. So I took the R word out, and then I also took out one of my catchphrases, which was kill yourself. Because I used to say, like, somebody would say something, and, I'd be like, oh, my God, I can't stand that person. Just kill yourself, And I used to say it on the show a lot. And then somebody wrote me a really heartfelt letter. My dad killed myself. I'm a huge fan of the show. I'm getting a little emotional just talking about it. I'm dead serious. And I felt so bad that this person's dad had killed himself, and he was a fan of the show, and I said it 3 times a show. He said, every time you say it, Jason, I think about my dad killing himself. I said, oh, my God, I'll never say it again. And I take suicide really serious right now because I know there's many people who are hurt by it, and I don't mean to be all politically correct. But if you are using the R word, just think about also using the word rape like in a, oh, my God, they raped me because, on the price. If somebody has been raped and you use that word, it can be, very hurtful to them. So just don't be cavalier with, certain words because there are people who are hurt by them. And listen, I'm a freedom of speech guy. I'm a writer. But there's also human beings on the other side of these things. So, listen, and this is Jason Calacanis saying this.
You've gone soft.
I got soft. It's, you know what? I blame it on my daughter, London. You have a kid and you start thinking about everybody.
I know.
You start thinking about everybody's feelings and my daughter's feelings and other people's. This one person, this other kid in the school came up to my daughter and yelled at her and said, I hate you. And I saw it happen. And I watched my poor daughter, like her shoulders go down like this. She starts crying. And she just turns around and says, Daddy, this person hates me. And I was like, oh, no. They don't hate you. They're just saying something they heard in a movie or something. But my God, the words we use. All right, Sarah, anything we can plug? You got an event coming up. When's the event? Let's talk about that.
We do in LA next week.
Okay, what is it?
Howard Lindzen.
Oh, my God, that's a great one.
It's our regular Pando monthly one. Yeah, we're really excited about it.
Oh, he's great. He's great. I love that guy. Howard Lindzen been on the program many times. Everybody go check out Pando and go to their events, their fireside chats. Sarah Lacy has become quite a feisty interviewer. No, she's a great interviewer. You're very good. You listen now, and you don't interrupt the speaker. You're getting good.
I'm not getting into this again.
You're getting good. What? I can give you a compliment. Broadcaster to broadcaster. It's a broadcaster to broadcaster compliment. I don't interrupt the person answering. All right, there we go. Enough. And thank you to the sponsors, Bing, MailChimp, and Scott Ed Walker. Thank you so much, Andrew, on the launch ticker. You're crushing it. Jane and Emily got the events on lockdown. DeMont and Luke keeping the lights on. And welcome to the team, Brandon Brandis. My God, am I going to miss you when you're gone. Stick around, kid. And Tyler Crowley, hey, wherever you are in Sweden, whoever you're out having dinner or dancing with, we miss you here in the States. Come back soon. Your seat is always open and warm, ready for you to go here at This Week in Startups. See you next time.